always been interested about death? Well, join us during our podcast. Let's chat about death.
And away we go.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Chat About Death. You are joined by me, Chris, on the panel today, and today I have a very, very special guest that is actually based out of a studio in Brisbane, is a long-term friend of mine since grade 4. Can you believe it? Grade 4. Let's put our hands together for Michael. Yeah. How are you?
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you for having me. That's
yeah.
That's quite a spooky introduction there, to be honest.
I know. Did you like that? It was something different.
I feel very... I feel like I should be holding a candle or something like that, or a lantern, or like a cloak or something like that.
It's a bit... Yeah. Look, because it's very hard for people because obviously they're only hearing this side, but this is like take 2 because the other one, I said something and then it all went a little bit pear-shaped. But anyway, that's where we're back on and that's good. I said something about the other side.
Don't show them the other side of the curtain. It was all perfect. It's all been perfect from the beginning.
So, for those people who are thinking, who is this lad that is on our airwaves at the moment? Now, Michael has travelled around the world. He has been an actor. He's a voiceover. He's been. I use the word entertainer because you have ever since our grade 4. Our grade 4, when we first met, you have entertained me for so many years, plus many, many others millions around the world. And you truly inspire me to do why I do what I do now. That's you've just been told now.
Thank you. The money should be landing in your account tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's very kind of it. It has to be said. Likewise, we went to school in Townsville many years ago. Hello to anyone from our school who's listening.
Yeah.
And you entertained me. We entertained each other in that context. We in sort of 1980s North Queensland, which was the Wild West. Let's be honest.
Oh, it's different.
And
so different.
Yeah, we were just doing silly voices, and much to the irritation of our teachers. So it's so it's mutual, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but Michael has had, you have had, Michael. You've had experience firsthand with the passing of your father and dealing with cancer and all sorts of illnesses that have sort of been around. And it's a journey that, first, we don't ever want to go through, but secondly, that once you go through it, I don't know if it gets any easier. So we're going to touch a little bit later on about the grief that you experienced through Dad's journey, if that's okay with you. Just to go through that. But being that we were just talking about our experience in Townsville, and for those that are on here, on our TikTok channel as well, Let's Chat About Death podcast, you'll know that we do a little bit of paranormal side of things. I'm a true believer of souls and things that have passed. But Michael and I, and a group of probably, well, it just seemed like 100 other students, but it was probably only 20 others.
It's probably about 3.
But we journeyed up to what we thought was like 8-hour drive. Once again, could have only been half an hour, to a little town called Ravenswood, just outside of Townsville or Charters Towers or whatever it was, out that way. And Michael and I had it was probably one of the very first things I had was a paranormal experience with this little area. Do you want to take us through a little bit of the journey of Ravenswood, Michael?
Yeah. It was. I mean, it's a beautiful old gold mining town. It's only an hour out of Townsville, but as you say, it felt much longer.
Oh yeah.
We were 11 at the time.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible place. If you ever have a chance to go there, it's like a classic Western sort of town. Tumbleweed in the
We
street.
did.
I don't know what
There
it's like
was
now.
tumbleweed.
It's
There
40
was
years since we've been there. But I mean, there's and it's so we had this camp there, school camp, and we were staying in the showgrounds there. I think, is that right? Was it the showgrounds?
Yeah.
And anyway, there was a church up on the hill. Anyone from the area will know it. And our teachers, this is the 1980s, our teachers took us up to this church at night and started telling us ghost stories. We were all trembling. No one wanted to go to bed.
No.
I can remember distinctly just being terrified. And all these stories about the priest who was buried under the church and
That's
all this
true.
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, I don't know how much of that is I wouldn't mind actually looking up the history of the place.
When I think about it, were they just doing this just to really spook us and give us a hard time? Like, I'm thinking about that now.
I think they were.
And I'm
I
thinking
think they were just trying to wind us up.
Or did they have too many ales prior to taking us up to the church? Like maybe
Probably
yeah.
a bit of both, I would imagine. Let's be honest. I mean, we shouldn't name names or anything,
No.
but possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was this creepy sort of environment, and I remember then for the rest of the week, everyone was just had their eyes glued to this church. And one day we were sitting there. It was like the old ticket box, the showground, wasn't it?
Yeah, up
And we
the
were
front.
hiding in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were all looking at this church, and I swear we saw an elbow.
Yeah.
Move like near the window in this empty church that wasn't supposed.
It was
to
like
be
wasn't there like a bell tower or it had window? Wasn't there something up above at the front of it?
Yeah. And hadn't the pews been moved?
That's right.
Like we went up there one.
Yeah.
We went up there one day for a day later. We'd all had a look around, and then the next day, all the pews had been stacked up.
Now we had been in that showgrounds doing other activities, and you would have heard a car if it came up the street. You would have heard it. There was no car up there.
It was probably one of the locals just tidying up.
Yeah,
it's I don't know. It was a creepy place. It was a creepy town. It was a classic ghost town. Boot Hill Cemetery and all. It was fantastic.
Oh, but that was probably
we should go back there and do a documentary.
I know. It was probably one of the like I said before, one of the first sort of things like where I don't know, got a little bit of an interest in all of that stuff. But as an 11-year-old, like it was creepy. I tell you now, definitely.
It definitely felt weird.
Yeah.
There, and I remember there was one kid, Dwayne. Remember Dwayne?
Yeah, good old Dwayne.
And I remember him walking up the hill, and we were all thinking, "Oh, he's so courageous going up there by himself." And then he stopped and froze, and then he ran back. He was terrified. And this was like the tough kid of the school, Dwayne, if you're listening.
Yeah.
He was the tough kid, or at least we thought he was.
Yeah.
And he was terrified. Yeah.
Oh,
but anyway, who knows? Who knows?
Definitely. Yeah, there was a bit of... And then he was straight back at us. But I remember that
was
night...
just the headmaster.
Oh, that's a whole new episode, that's all this experience of
didn't you get the cane? Didn't you get the cane?
Yeah, cane.
That was back in the days, kids, when you got whacked with a stick.
Yeah. But the funny thing was with that, we used to have, what was it, cold taps? And that means refrigerated taps for those that aren't sort of Queensland based. And if you knew you were getting the cane, you'd go down and you'd get your hands so cold or numb, thinking, he's not gonna.
Oh, is that right?
This isn't gonna hurt. You didn't know that. Oh, right.
Well, I never got it. I always talked my way out of it.
But then, and then you go up there
because I would always, if ever I ended up in the office, I'd be like, look, can we all discuss this rationally?
That's right.
Like human being. Do I really need the cane?
No.
I tell you, that's an interesting computer you've got there. And I'd just divert the conversation, and I'd get away with it.
And I've just gone, okay, do whatever you have to. But the principal got to a point where he'd get you to sit down for 10 to 15 minutes. So all that he knew that you went to the cold taps.
Oh, really?
And
I didn't know all this.
Yeah, he waited until your hand was warm again, and then you got it. And it was
I didn't know this.
I must admit, it was quite. It's that type of pain where you go, oh, that hurts, but that felt so good too.
Kids today don't know what they're missing, do they?
But then there was high school. No, with the Christian brothers. That was a different.
No, let's not go there. But I didn't know all that stuff about because I was terrified of getting it. The cane. I was scared of getting it. And
well, how
yeah,
about a blackboard duster thrown at your head?
Yeah, I think I got that. I think I got that.
Yeah, because when
you blackboard dusters at us.
Yeah. See, once again, kids they would have no idea what that meant.
When you say it out loud, it's quite astonishing, really, that was what was happening.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's actually not really not that good, is it?
No,
it's just not great.
It is so different. It's so different. Did you leading, like, even from obviously from Ravenswood through your schooling, and even might have even been before that, but did you think you ever, like when you're an adult now, did you ever look back and go, yeah, I think there was things happening around me that could have come from a paranormal side of things? Or did you ever see anything, hear anything? Did you ever had any of that experience?
Other than the Ravenswood thing, no. I mean, the Ravenswood incident, it lent itself to suggestion because of the environment. Yeah. There was, as I said, it was tumbleweed, spooky cemeteries. It kind of had and I'm, as you know, I'm very much, what's the word? Open to the suggestion of the theatrical. I love a bit of that sort of thing. Yeah. So it had that kind of classic spooky ghost town feel to it. So I think we were open to suggestion, but I did get a funny feeling there, I must admit. Yeah. But that's the only thing I can think of. That's the only thing I can think of. Other than, I mean, if you're strictly talking paranormal, obviously as you get older, you look back at undercurrents in family dynamics that you didn't realize were there. And now you look back and you think, okay, I can see what's happening. But that's an emotional thing. That's very much, but not paranormal. I don't have any. Certainly not from childhood.
How about when you were traveling around the globe and you went into these beautiful old theaters or halls, or did you ever sort of get that feeling up your back? You know how you sort of get the hairs up over
yeah.
Yeah. Because that would sort of be a little bit of that too, I think, because there would be a lot of souls that would be held in that.
Well, I did the Edinburgh Fringe Festival a couple of years.
Yeah.
And anyone who's been to Edinburgh will tell you what a spooky place that is, especially old Edinburgh, where most of the festival is. And you go into the vaults underneath the town, and there's one particular graveyard, Greyfriars Kirkyard, it's called. Ooh. And there's you go in there, and there was a certain section of that graveyard that I just did not want to go into, and I just could feel it. And I've since been told that there's by some locals that there's something there. Don't go there. But I don't know. But I could certainly I certainly got the feeling like I'm not on my own here, and this is kind of dark. Another place I went to was Nottingham Jail.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And there was a particular cell, I think it was solitary confinement, and I got sick. I actually felt sick.
Yeah.
It was that bad. I just got this oppressive feeling, and I felt ill. And I was ill for the rest of the day, and I had to go back to my hotel and sleep. I was out.
Yeah, because it drains you and makes you feel nauseated. Yeah, something
just came over me, and I just did not feel good at all. And I had been warned.
Yeah.
So, again, there's that suggestion that's been given. So, was I open to suggestion? Was I just tired? Who knows? But I just, certainly. I mean, the UK especially is just, fantastic for those. So there's a fantastic TV series called Most Haunted. And look, how much of it is theatricality and how much of it is real, I don't know. But they go into some great historical places, and then they turn the night vision cameras on, and whether or not that's real or not, I don't know. That's not for me to tell. But what they do talk about are the stories, and they tell the stories of in 1837, a man was seen walking down the corridor doing X, Y, Z, holding his head in his hand or something, all that sort of stuff. And that kind of stuff is exciting, is kind of cool. But as I say, I'm open to that sort of. Dickensian theatricality.
Yeah. So we were saying at the intro that you've gone through the process which obviously none of us ever want to go through, and that is, firstly, the loss of a parent, and the journey associated with anything death related. Because as I don't know about your family, Michael, you're probably similar to ours. Death was never really spoken about. It was nothing. I mean, when my grandmother died, my nana died, it was just a process. It was just like, oh yeah, we just turn up and this is what we do. And you know, like at my grandmother's, we actually saw the clean heat truck arrive for her cremation, which I thought was pretty impressive. Yeah. Like, and
what's it called?
The clean heat truck, like the gas truck coming to fill up the gas for the cremator. So, you know, like, yeah. And that's all I remember of that service, to be honest. And
wow.
But it's something like, oh, you know, what happens with bugs? Oh, they go to the farm, you know, or an animal dies, they go to the farm. I'd love to know where this farm is. But yeah, it was
bloody depressing joint. I don't
it was never discussed. And
no.
Would you have had the same thing? Like, you know, never.
My grandmother died when I was 7,
right.
And I can't remember much about that at all. And then the only real significant one after that wasn't until I was 26. So I didn't really experience someone close dying until I was 26.
Yeah.
Which was my dad. And but
were you living with Dad then, or were you?
No.
Okay.
I was living in the same city, but not with him.
Right.
He was overseas in his first overseas trip, and he was, you know, he'd never been overseas. And I got a call, and you know, he had to have surgery. He had a brain tumor.
Yeah.
And that, cutting a very long story short, they managed to bring him home, but it turns out it was not necessarily the end of that problem. So
right.
So, you know, that was a 12-month situation where my sister and I were looking after him along with his partner, it has to be said. And he ended up, you know, spending 3 months in palliative care and then passing away. And so that was the first time, and that was a real, you know, a full-on experience.
Yeah, because you have, yeah, because there's,
it wasn't that he just passed away suddenly or something like that. It was a long drawn out thing. So,
what
which
would
in some ways is. Sorry.
Go on. Yeah, no, you go on.
No, I was going to say, in some ways, I'm actually grateful for, because it allowed me to have 12 months with him. It sounds terrible, to say goodbye, basically.
And
to sort of make it.
Yeah, that's what I was just
that I needed to make with him. Yeah, so it became a very. It went from like the shock of his illness. That was the most I'd cried, I think, ever at that point in my life. I can remember being in the shower, just sitting on the floor, just bawling. This is the shock of him being ill. But when he died, it was a weird kind of. I had 12 months of getting used to this situation, and it was almost like a. Happy's not the word.
No, it's a release. It's a release. Yeah.
It was a piece, and I felt this strange confidence, bizarre confidence. I remember walking out of his funeral, feeling probably one of the most confident confidence in myself that I'd ever had. It sounds weird. And I don't mean that in a selfish kind of way, but it was just this sort of like, he's with me. I can face anything now.
Yeah.
It was a weird feeling. I mean, but the problem is with grief is that then gives way to sort of delayed grief, because then I sort of fell into this malaise of not, you know, once that sort of situation eases off, I then got into this decision paralysis, and I didn't know what to do with his estate and assets and things like that. And I didn't have him to ask. And I look back now, and I realized I didn't have anyone to ask permission to sell things or throw things out. And that actually traumatized me more than him passing away, if I'm honest.
Yeah. The journey itself, I've experienced over my years too, even with other families, that having a longer stretch prior to someone passing away they feel that sense, like what you did. You feel that that relief coming through. But the other side is that they had grieved for those 12 months or 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. I'd already grieved.
Rather
I'd already
than
grieved.
the sudden, like, this has happened, and now we have to think about things. But death is always, it's never really been spoken about. No one really says, "Oh, I want burial" or "I want cremation." And what I'm trying to do, obviously, with our podcast is educating people. Talk about it if you can, just even if it's burial or cremation. That's all I need to know. The rest of it we can deal with.
Well, my dad died without a will, so not that he was just that sort of, I'll get to that, and so that caused all sorts of trouble with my sister and I. Not that we had any trouble together, as in there was no conflict between us, but just in terms of administratively, it caused trouble. We just had to wait. Everything went to us, but it was just like, thank God we did get on. There was no dispute between my sister and I, but. Well, it's then what do people do in that situation? So it's just for the sake of making life easier.
The forming your IDs too, who are you? Well, I'm the son or I'm the daughter. Okay, prove it to me. How do you prove it? Well, and all you want to do is just tick the box,
I couldn't close a bank account that had $30 in it.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember the bank, I won't name them, Westpac, who wouldn't, they wouldn't talk to me to close a bank account.
No.
They had to talk to my dad. And I'm like, but I've got the letters of administration. Yes. You can't talk to me. Oh, no, we need to talk to him. I said, well, that's going to be difficult because he's not here.
Yeah.
I was getting so angry. But, so it's just all that. But it's the thing I always say when someone is bereaved, I always say to them, everyone says condolences. Let me know if I can do anything. Hope you're okay. All that. Yeah. We all do that. And that's all lovely. The thing I always say to people, ever since my dad's situation, was I always follow up a few months later. I'm just checking in to see if you're okay. Because that's when everyone disappears and the funeral's gone, funeral's over, all the sandwiches have been eaten, and everyone's gone home. Yep. That's it. It's all done now. But for the person who's grieving, that's almost the beginning of it.
Oh, definitely.
So even though the shock and awe had gone when my dad was diagnosed, after he died in the years and months after that, this loneliness crept in, and this, as I said, this decision paralysis. You remember what I was, definitely. And so I just didn't know what to do. I know now. I look back now and I know exactly what to do. Apple shares, but you just don't. Oh man, I did the sums on that the other day. I don't even want to think about it.
Doesn't that knock you? You go, oh damn it!
I'm not going to get into it. It'll just set me off. But yeah, it's the thing the decision making. That was the biggest traumatizing thing for me, was the decision making and the lack, being, and everyone's going to be different. That's the thing. Grief is different for every single person. You can't just say, oh, they're grieving, therefore it's X, Y, Z is going on with them, because everyone's going to be grieving a different way. It depends what their relationship with their father was or whoever the person was. There's going to be all sorts of things come out, and it's as much of dealing with the grief of your own stuff as much as losing them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's if I had just understanding your own emotional reactions to things. I'm waffling a bit, sorry.
No.
But yeah,
all interesting.
I'm going off track.
No.
But that would be my advice, is to always follow up and brace yourself for the months after, not so much the day of the funeral is the easy part,
The other thing is too that I find, and with what your dad had said, or I'll get onto the will, like I'll do that later. People tend to sort of.
I don't even think you talked about it.
No, but it's one of those things that's like wills are always been represented for the elderly. It's only when you get to 80 that you need one. And I say to people like Emma and I have got one, and it's one of those things that you just got to keep updating and do it, because it can save a lot of time down the track and a lot of those decisions.
Stress.
Oh, the stress! Oh my God!
And prolongs grief. It keeps you in a perpetual. The administration without a will keeps you in this perpetual loop.
You're in it all
And you
the
can't-
time. That's
you just-
it. Yeah.
You're in limbo. And it's just, for the sake of your family, not having to have that stress. Just get it sorted out. But, but in terms of, as I say, in terms of grief, everyone is, that's probably the biggest thing is everyone is different. Everyone will grieve differently over a different person.
When you were going through all that process with Dad, in those 12 months and things, was there ever a time that the healthcare system was concerned about you and your sister, like in support wise for you guys, or
No, not the palliative system with the palliative hospital. Were fantastic. They were incredible.
Right. Yeah.
And it was funny. As soon as we got in there, it was like we weren't on our own. It was actually a strange relief going in there.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I literally had to have my arm twisted, and I say literally, as in I literally had to. They were like, you can't do this. You can't do this.
Yeah.
I can remember the blue care lady on the phone saying the kids were in our 20s, but they're particularly stressed. And she just sort of glanced at me and said, especially the son. And she knew I did not want to send him to palliative care. I just wasn't going to do it.
No.
And I had to have my arm twisted, and they pulled me aside and said, you cannot do this. You can't do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but he's got to stay home. No, you can't. This is beyond your capability.
Yeah, it's different.
Anyway, we took him in. Yeah, and we took him in, and off he went in whatever the patient transport was, and we followed afterwards. And I got in there. He'd been in there for about 3 hours. I walked in, and he was in hysterics. Like he was laughing his head off.
Yeah.
And I just looked at the doctor, and I said, or the nurse, and I said, "Oh, is he on some sort of morphine or some drug?" They said, "No, we haven't given him anything."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, what's going on? He's just in hysterics." And they said, "No, sometimes he's probably feeling relief that you're not having to go through this, that you're not having to deal with all this stuff."
Wow, isn't that amazing? Though?
So those 3 months in palliative care with my dad was actually some of the best times I've had with him.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds completely bizarre because he was in, we had to put him in a transport chair to take him. And I had access obviously to his, to some money, and I was just to his money. And at that point I was just, I don't care. It's going on. If it can go on him, it's going on him.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'd order big seafood bloody trays for his birthday. Transport to, the other side of town to the water and all this sort of stuff. Just to give him a life. And I remember we're at Kangaroo Point, so the hospital we're at was at Kangaroo Point, and there was river fire. I don't know whether you know river fire in Brisbane. That they have a big fireworks display, and the RAAF come along with an afterburn and all. It's a spectacular thing. Anyway, it happened. How's this for weird? It happened that it was on his birthday, his last birthday.
Oh wow.
That it coincided. So I was sort of joking with him, saying, "Look what I've organised for you, Dad. All these people, people are bringing their families.
Wait for this F-18 to come past.
The RAAF are in on it. It's all, So we were at, but instead of worrying about all the stuff for his care, we could just enjoy his company and enjoy being with him.
It's the simple things in life, isn't it? Like really, it's his love for the water, his love for family. His love for just nature, and
it taught me to live in the moment a bit more because I can distinctly remember sitting there with him, looking at a sunset or whatever, or enjoying a bit of food or whatever, and it was just this moment, and just knowing that this was not going to be happening much longer. So it was a strange time standing still thing going on.
Yeah, I found. In my experience, that that limited time that is left, it's like you're not having to hide anything. Like probably hide's not the word, but you're more open to talk about stuff. Yes, exactly.
It was hard. It was hard to talk to him because of where his brain tumor was.
Yeah,
his communication wasn't great, so he could understand everything I was saying. Yeah, but he couldn't put the words together. Right, couldn't actually physically put words together. So it was hard for him. I remember him saying to my sister, he had his hand on her head, and he said, oh, love you. And she was sort of, my sister, bless her, she's like, oh, and didn't want me to feel that. And she's like, oh, and Michael, I'm in the room. And he gestured to me and he said, oh, yeah, and these others. I was, and these others. He couldn't find the words. He just couldn't do it. But I remember, And so, it was just things like that. So the doctors would confuse. I can remember a conversation with the doctor and the doctor saying, oh, he doesn't understand. I looked at Dad and I said, no, you do understand, don't you? You just can't express it. He went, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, what was I saying? So we weren't, it wasn't actually a verbal thing going on. It was just sometimes we just sit in silence, but it was lovely.
But silence
and
is
so
also good
that was,
too, that you just know that you're in that zone together and it's company. Yeah. Company's the big thing.
And it has to be said, and you do it very well, is dealing with death with humor.
Yeah.
Because everyone's scared of humor. Oh, what if we offend someone? And, obviously, this is another conversation, but you can't gauge who you're going to offend when.
No.
Some people who've been, I'm 6'5". If I walk into a room and there's somebody in that room who hypothetically was, hurt by a 6'5" person, they're going to be offended by my mere existence walking into a room. So you can't. No, I'm not being funny. You can't possibly account for what everyone's going to take offense for.
Yeah.
But you can certainly deal with your own grief with humor, and it's yours to be funny about if you want. If you want, that is. And people shouldn't be scared of it. And that's, and I think, companies and that these days, I've worked a lot in corporate team building and things like that. And I do less of it these days because, everyone's on eggshells about everything.
Yeah.
And I just look back at this one particular, you can't make jokes about this. You can't make jokes. Yes, you can. My dad was dying of a brain tumor and I was making a joke about it. I remember not a joke about his situation, but joking in the context of his illness. And I can remember sitting there. He loved Monty Python and I bought him the Monty Python soundtrack CD, which we used to listen to as kids.
That we did,
remember?
Yeah.
And I bought him the CD. Anyway.
Don't you call me big nose.
Yeah, all that. But here he is in a palliative care ward and his feet are tapping from side to side and he's singing, literally singing, always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah. How brilliant is that?
It was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he could see the funny side of it.
Yeah.
He could see the funny side of it. And actually, funnily enough, I spoke to the doctor about it. And I said, but his speech has been so bad, and yet he's singing perfectly. And they said, yeah, it's a different part of the brain. Well, wow. that amazed me. Singing's controlled by a different part of the brain.
You find that too with Alzheimer's and dementia too. Like different parts of it. And, even with ones that have had brain trauma. I've heard of that.
So, but where was I going? There wasn't really a thread, but it's just, look, when you're dealing with other people's grief or you're dealing with your own grief, just bear in mind that everyone grieves differently and just be a bit patient and kind with yourself.
The biggest thing
that would be my advice.
That a lot of people, and I've heard it, and even talking to families after funerals, and it might only be, it might be 3 months down the track, to finally got the, I guess, the ability to sort of ring and say, hey, look, we're sorry we didn't, give you a big hug and a kiss at the end, but we really love to thank you now. But it's, I get, energy is probably the word. And for them to, a lot of their friends have said, they were all good up until the funeral date, and then everyone sort of disappeared. And then when they've reached out to them, they've just said, oh, well, we didn't want to disturb you. We didn't want to, be in your face. And like what you said there, Michael, about, that's the time that you need to have people check in on you. And I think that's 100%. It's, but for people to sort of disappear and or even the classic, which it drives me up the walls, it's like, just get over it, just move on. It's like,
I got that. You need to move on.
Move on. It's been, it's been 3 years, been 10 years, been whatever. It's like, move on. It's like, I will move on when I want to move on, and I don't need to be told to do that. It never gets easier.
What is moving on?
Yeah.
Moving on to what?
I think
mean,
it's just learning to work with the situation that you're in. It never goes away. It's just what part of your brain that you lock it into. Yeah, that's what I think.
The whole thing moving on. You don't move on and go, oh, well, that's gone now. It's always going to be there. You're always going to miss them. So it's learning how to integrate the fact that they're not there in your life now. That's the moving on. Well, sometimes for some people, talking about it is helping them move on. And the more people say, oh, you need to move on and shut up, that actually prolongs it.
Oh, it does.
And
it frustrates you.
So you're not actually helping.
The other thing that we find too a lot now, and I've
sometimes not talking about it is also the answer. It depends on person to person. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was going to say something about exactly what you just said there. Sometimes not talking about people that have passed. Like I always say in our funeral services, if I'm the celebrant, to continue those traditions, continue what you would normally be doing. Like if it was a birthday, not saying that you go out for dinner for their birthday, or whatever, but just acknowledge them. And speak their name. Don't, because what I had a funeral the other day, and this gentleman had some younger kids. Now I would say they would be in their 20s, and I can say kids now because we're at nearly 50. And the thing was like, you can touch Dad, and they look at you like, ooh, no, I'm not touching him. He's dead. And that's what came to my head, and I'm thinking, but he's still your dad in your earth form. Oh no, I can't do that. And just the look on their face was like it was disgusting.
Yeah. I can kind of,
but
I get it. I get it because I was like that too. Like Dad passed away in front of my sister and I wasn't sure. I'm thinking something's different now. Something feels different.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to freak my sister out. I said, come on, Sal, let's just go out for a sec. And I asked the nurses and I said, look, can you just check? Anyway, he'd passed away. Yeah. They said, do you want to come back in? And I didn't want to. Want to. But my first, and neither did my sister, but our first reaction was, well, he's not there.
Well, yeah.
So no, we don't want to go in there. But I'm not saying people should, but I can understand their reaction of, ew. But also I can understand if someone does want to touch them. Again, it's that. It's up to you. It's up to you. There's no right or wrong. This whole thing. That's probably the worst thing about this culture that we're in, this Western culture, is it's got to be right or wrong. Everything's so binary. For such for a world that's going on about everything being non-binary, we're very binary in our thinking. Yes. So if someone wants to touch a loved one's hand, touch it. If they don't. If they don't want to go near it, don't go near it. It's just however, whatever's best for you. I don't regret not going and sitting with my dead father for ages. In my mind, he wasn't there. There was no need to. But for other people, if he's died before you get there, they might want to sit with him.
Yeah.
So it's whatever works, whatever is right.
Different.
There is no right or wrong.
No, very true. Very true.
There's only right for you, not right or wrong. It's right for you.
Yeah. Do you think?
And this is where.
Do you think that with what you've gone through and everything else like that through your journey, has it prepared you more? Like, do you think you, like, if, touch wood it doesn't, but if something else was to happen down the track with anyone, even a friend's family or whatever, like, are you, because I mean, each death is different, isn't it? Like, I look at
I don't think,
nothing prepares you for the next. Or the next after that,
no, I mean, my cat had to be looked at the other day, and I was getting upset about him. So no, I don't think it. You'd have to be a bit of a cold person if you were just like, oh well, another one gone. Where are we right? Let's go next.
Yeah, but you know what? That does happen though. It does happen, and I often think,
I can imagine.
Are you serious or the classic one?
Sometimes that's Sorry. I was going to say sometimes that's people protecting themselves.
Yeah. The classic is, how long until we can get the death certificate so we can get his money? It's like, can we just do the funeral first and then you can work that out after? Oh, yeah, but, I need to buy my car. Pay me house.
Yeah.
Before the rates go up.
I don't have anything polite to say about that attitude. I must admit. I'll say no comment.
No comment. Yeah. So yeah, like, I mean, everything that we do is scrutinized and picked on, and it doesn't matter what we do. Like what you were saying there too is, I think you just got to be you. You got to do what works for you. And I used to be a person that would be very like, oh yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do this. But at times you got to say no. You got to say no to certain things that you don't feel comfortable about. And I think that's
Sorry, I'll have to repeat that.
You lost audio.
My phone. Yeah, my phone died out, dropped out there. Sorry.
No, I was just saying about it's okay to say no to things. Like if you're not comfortable, then say no. If you are comfortable, then do it.
Yeah.
It's. I think we need to get out of that frame of just being yes man. Because it doesn't change anything. It's just you're not there to make everyone else feel good and you feel like rubbish. It's it has to be right.
That was another trap I fell into, and my advice to anyone who's grieving would be, that's a time for you to be selfish. If you need to go and sit by the water by yourself, do it. If you don't want to talk to anyone, don't talk. Don't be rude, but just say, listen, this is what I need to just look after you first. Put your own oxygen mask on, and it's as long as you're not hurting anyone else, or I don't mean that's a license to just trash the house, but just if it's not, that's the trap I fell into. I was too busy trying to fix everything and all that sort of stuff, and then wasted a lot of energy on that. So if I could have my time again,
did you do a lot of research after Dad passed away of tumors and things like that, or was that you just you had enough going through? You did it. Yeah.
Well, while he was sick, because I was constantly looking up, what other options have we got here,
and what to watch out for, and what happens if this happens.
Well, I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, so it's not healthy for me to sort of go down that road ananyway.
It's like
seriously.
Yeah, you open the
no, it's not a good. Yeah. No, trust me, it's not good for me to do that.
No.
But at the time when he was sick, I was looking up his specific situation to try and in fact, I think there was a treatment that was available that I mentioned to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh yeah, we could try that." I was like, well, hang on a minute. Why am I looking this up?
Yeah, that's right. I'm not on the 200,000 a year, but that's all right. It's like, because they did.
But funnily enough, they
just do what they have to do.
That.
That's so true. That's what they do, though. It's like, you go to the doctor now for anything. It's like, I think I might need a full blood test. Oh, that's an idea.
I think, I have to say though, the care system these days. This was like 2001, so my wife was having treatment. I won't go into all that, but my wife was having treatment a few years ago.
Yeah.
For another issue. But I'll shout these people out. Peter Mack, who are fantastic.
Yeah.
They looked after her, and a totally different scenario to what my dad went through. When my dad was sick, it was like, it's good night, nurse, and that's it, off you go. And there was no kind of human care.
No,
it was just numbers.
Yeah.
Whereas flash forward to this day and age, Peter Mack with my wife, who thank God is doing very well. They were astonishingly good. I couldn't rate Peter Mack any higher. In fact, it was funny. We were sort of, when we were finished, we were actually sad to say goodbye. So if you can donate, if you've got spare money,
it becomes part of that. You become part of their family.
A shout out for. I will do a shout out for Peter McCallum if that's all right. If anyone's wanting to donate to anything, looking for a cause, Peter McCallum Hospital are incredible in Melbourne. I would absolutely.
Because
suggest
we've got
them out because they're incredible.
We've got another family that we're really good friends with, and they've been going through Peter Mack as well, and they can't rate them any higher. They're brilliant.
That place,
absolutely,
that place is like a godsend. Literally, it's like an oasis.
Yeah,
it's incredible, and they look after the carers as much as the patients.
that is
They
very
really do.
important. Is that family that are dealing with the pending death of someone, is making sure that they're well looked after, because a lot of people start to go, well, I've got to be strong, I've got to be tough. But no, you don't. If you've got issues, speak it, tell it.
There is. I mean, sometimes you've got to, there's a bit of, again, it's contextual, isn't it? Something there was moments because when my dad was ill, I was looking after my sister. She was a bit younger than me. I felt like I had to look after her and be strong for her and all that sort of stuff.
But there's no book on it. There's no book of like.
No, there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah. So I think that's, the education that what we're trying to do or what I'm trying to do, be it for the small amount of people that we're probably going to be reaching. I mean, we're very lucky that our podcast is streamed around the globe, and I'm grateful for this type of media too, rather than it just being in the newspaper or he out on the street like the town crier.
Well, yeah.
But
I mean, you get a 5-minute piece on the news, and it's all very, very shallow. That's, this sort of.
It's like, why do you do it? Because I want to. It's and if someone can learn something out of what we're doing, then that's a bonus. That's something that you didn't know before you went on to it.
Yeah, I love that attitude though. The way people do that. Oh, why would you do that? It's like, well, you may not want to do it, but like I love steam trains. I love nothing more than taking a thermos of coffee, some leftover food, and going off into the forest and watching a steam train go past and taking some photos. That's some dorky stuff right there. I love it. And the attitude would be from a lot of people, well, what would you do that for? Well, I'm not asking you to do it. So I can't be bothered going to the football. Throwing no shade on the football. It's just not my thing. But you're not going to go up to 90,000 people at the MCG. Go, what would you do that for? What are you doing that for?
Yeah, it's like go home and do something else. I'm sure the lawns need to be done.
There's a lot of, and to bring it into the death thing, there's a lot of that happens when someone dies. There's a lot of you should be doing this, should be doing that.
Oh okay. Yeah, there's always a neighbour that's done it better, and it's like,
why have you done this?
The classic one used to be, and it used to fire me up, and you had to sort of have that professional head was, I know that all bodies are cremated together, like they're all just shoved in there. It's like, well, I wouldn't be talking in front of the family like that your loved one's just a piece of crap. But anyway, and I go, no, it doesn't happen. Oh, yes, it does. And you go, no, it doesn't. Well,
let's have that discussion later on.
I saw it. You saw it, did you? And then you just go, oh, yeah, I saw the flames. No, I think you were probably having a hot flush. But anyway, let's get back to the arrangement. But there's always someone, like you said, that knows better than you, and you're the one that has experienced, or you're the one that that has had a journey in this. You're not going to have the same thing, but because there's a different experience. And,
no one will grieve the same way. No one will grieve the same way, because no relationship is the same.
No, it's.
Do you know what I mean? It's.
But no, I'm glad that unfortunately, death is something that we cannot change. We cannot, even someone said not that long ago, would you like to know when or how? And I said, I don't want to know both. I don't want to know either of them. When it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Because if I knew that I was going to die, for example, of, I don't know, heart attack or whatever, then I'd be going every time I got a pinch in my chest, I'd be going, oh, that's it, time up, Then you live in your life of what is going to happen, rather than, next week, Tuesday, 2 p.m., you're out. It's like, no, I prefer not to. I don't want to know. I don't want to know that. Oh, wouldn't you? I went, no, I don't. The universe has its own way of doing it. We all have our expiry card. All we have to do is live our life as though that today's our last. We just got to enjoy life in whatever capacity. Like you said, if you're sitting there watching a steam train, or if you're at the football, or if you're going for a swim or whatever it is, just do what makes you happy, because we only get one earth life. That's it. We're done. And it is a huge journey. But yeah, it's something that we've got to, we just got to grab it by the horns and run with it, I reckon. So,
yeah, well said. You reminded me of a quote, actually, and I've just pulled it up. It's a C.S. Lewis quote from Out of the Silent Planet, and the quote is, hang on, now I've lost it. And how could? Oh, hang on. There we go. Look at this, is live radio, folks. Okay, sorry, I beg your pardon. That was really badly timed, wasn't it? This is a
That's
problem
all right.
with phones. Things drop off when you. I just pulled it up on I just pulled it up on someone's Instagram. I saw it last night, and then when you hold your thumb down, and then it disappears.
Yeah.
I was like, far out. Anyway, no, this is the quote, and I'll read it for you. And how could we endure to live and let time pass if we were always carrying for one day or 1 year to come back? If we did not know that every day in a life fills the whole life with expectation and memory, and that these are that day.
Yeah. That's
I
brilliant.
didn't really do that justice, but it just as you were talking about, it just reminded me of that quote that I saw last night. But it's funny. I did, because you're asking about paranormal stuff. Let's get into the good stuff. I did have some weird woo-woo happen after Dad died.
Oh,
we did have some funny things happen.
Yeah. So what happened there?
Well, first of all, there was at this palliative hospital, there was a conference going on. While Dad was still alive, downstairs for staff only, for nurses and doctors, about the afterlife, about after near-death experiences, things like that. I thought, and we were practically living there at this point. And I said to the nurse, "Can I come?" Along there. Yeah, you can. And there was this panel of medical people talking about, qualitative, verbal, anecdotal stuff that they'd heard, and one of them was from kids who'd had sort of died and come back to life.
Wow. Okay.
And they said to these kids, "What did you see?" And these kids are like 1 or 2, and they said, "Oh, I saw God." And these the medical people would say, "Well, what did God look like?" And they said, "All the faces of everyone in the entire world." These are little kids saying this. So it was one of those weird things. But what I found interesting about that is that these medical people who deal in palliative care, they were going to this conference and they were not scoffing at it, because I would have thought the medical profession would scoff at the idea of life after death.
Yeah.
And so when Dad died, my sister and I had this sort of weird sense that someone was around, to the point where my sister woke me up in the middle of the night and crying, saying he won't leave, he's still here. And then the next day it was gone. Whatever this sort of, the only way I can describe it is there was a humidity in the air.
Yeah.
Not like feeling tactile, but just a sense of something going on.
Yeah, it's an energy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then one of my dad's ex-girlfriends, who he had sort of unfinished business with emotionally, she said she had some weird experiences the week after, and all this sort of stuff. And so I got talking to these medical people at this hospital. I said, "Look, okay, give me what thinking it's grief, it's the imagination. What's the?" And this doctor said to me, "Yeah, you'd be surprised at how often it happens."
Oh yeah.
So really?
Yeah.
And I got talking to the nurses, and they're sitting, palliative nurses with cigarettes hanging out of their mouths on their cigarette break. And I said, this happened, this weird thing happened, and that happened, and this happened, and they said, "Oh yeah, we should write it down, shouldn't we, Beryl?" Or whatever.
Yeah.
It happens so
That's
often.
true.
They were just so blasé. But they were so blasé about it. It was like I'd said, "Oh, look, I dropped my wallet or something." It was like, "Oh yeah, that happens." Yeah. So that was really weird. But then a few years later, I won't waffle on about it, but I was in Cardiff, in a hotel in Cardiff doing a show, and it was in my room, and I was particularly upset I was having trouble with Dad's estate, some difficulties because of that aforementioned. Partly because of that aforementioned indecision I was talking about, and grief.
Yeah. But
I was getting really upset, and I was in tears, and I was saying, I started saying, and forgive me, but it was along the lines of, I couldn't even keep him alive, like a really traumatic, raw stuff. And I was with my wife, and she and I were sitting there, and the minute I said that, there was a wine bottle on the desk. And it literally slid across the desk towards me. And she saw it as well. We both saw it.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing. But it was just the fact that it happened after I'd said this really, it was a real raw emotion type stuff. And it was only a few years after. So, yeah, it was just, yeah.
Did Dad like a red or a white? Was he a wine drinker?
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. No, but I could see him saying, "Look, have a drink, Mike. Just
have one of them. Yeah. Just have one of them. Have the whole bottle. There you go.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It could have been. Who knows what it was? It could
But
have been.
both
anything,
of you saw it, so you could account for it rather
we
than
both saw it.
I saw
We
that
both
moving.
saw
And
it.
then
Yeah,
you go,
yeah.
yeah, sure, Michael.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, no. To this day, she remembers it as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
Things
anyway.
happen
But anyway,
for a reason. I'm a true believer of that. And look, if I thought about it when I was in primary school or high school, I'd be going, nah, what a load of rubbish. Because, but what I have seen in my experience, there is such a thing. There is these stories that people are telling about seeing people or feeling people or having an energy, and being a spiritual person that I am, and doing my Reiki and all the other stuff, and being sort of that psychic type way too, I see and hear things that no one else would hear. Like it's just, it's trippy. And each time that I do it, I'm enriched with it. I'm not going to go and put it out on people, but it's
no. The only thing I would say, and I don't want to go into this territory because this is a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I'm about to say, not you. But the only thing I would say to that is just to anyone, be careful what you let in, because
truly,
I think there's some dark stuff out there as well.
Oh, well and truly, yeah. Make sure your intent is right. Make sure that you close off stuff. Don't ever do a Ouija board. I'll tell you that for a fact.
No, categorically do not. And I'm not going to get into, as I said, that's why I'm not getting into it, because it's obviously a longer podcast. But there's let's just say some people came out of the woodwork to attack me during my weekend moment of grief, which the full story of. Just guard yourself. Look after yourself.
Yeah,
and
protection's a big thing.
That's the two takeaways I'd probably conclude with is look after yourself, put yourself first while you're grieving, grieve in your own way and allow yourself to grieve in your own way, but protect yourself. Don't be vulnerable, because people will take advantage of it. So
definitely.
I don't mean cut people off, but just be very, very safeguard yourself.
Oh yeah.
That's all I'll say without going into deeper territory. But
No. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I really appreciate.
Glad we could keep it light.
Yeah, I really appreciate Michael for coming on and being able to share some of his world with us. And I was honoured and lucky enough to have met his father in my little world back in Townsville, and the fun that we used to have together. And as you know, Michael, he'll forever be in my heart, because how truly honoured was I to have him a part of my little world.
Thank you, man. And it should be said too, I'm sure you talk about them, your grandmother and your mum.
Porridge.
Same with them too. I have fond memories. Your grandmother's accent, the best accent in the world.
Oh, it is. Like, she had been here for 30 years, but holy crap.
The new.
Christopher. I can hear her. But,
crumbs.
Crumbs, yeah.
Okay. Apologies to any Scottish listeners.
But look, to all our listeners out there, you may have been through a similar thing to what Michael had been through or what we have been through. And I think the biggest thing is just being true to yourself. I think whatever grief process that you have to go through, you go through. Don't be trapped by people that are toxic. Try to run it at your pace. And, like we have said, our life is our life, and we have to live it like that. We've all gone the journey of having to answer to other people, and there's a time where you just got to run yourself. You got to be proud of what you do. So thank you very much, Michael, for coming on and sharing all of that with us.
My pleasure.
And no doubt we'll have you back on another time. We just have to, once this gets out, then your payment will go up, and then we may not be able to afford you. But
I'm not sure
how people will talk to your people. And hopefully, we have, we have a Let's Chat About Death live stage show going to be happening in Melbourne, and then hopefully we'll get up to Brisbane. And for those that are in Brisbane, that's obviously where Michael is, and hopefully Michael could be a part of that show, and we can all come out and enjoy that together. And it would be a great reunion for us too, to be like 12-year-olds again. Hopefully a little bit more professional, but we'll get there.
Well, we used to make tapes when we were kids.
Oh,
Old
yeah.
little tape decks.
Yeah. That's right.
We'd do this.
Yeah, we'd be just sitting side by side and be doing it, and it was a lot of fun.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hi, my name's Michael, and I'm Chris.
Yeah, you're listening to Michael, Davoren, and Chris.
Nah, it was
Wish
a lot
we
of
still
fun.
had them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of things that we always do it. But thank you everyone for listening, and until I get back on here again and have a chat, enjoy. Thank you very much. Bye for now.